The purpose of this lecture is to teach you how to write more. Now, the first question you would ask me is, why should I write more? Why should I be writing all the time? If you're an academic, the answer is obvious. In our word, it's publish or perish. Either you publish or you cannot succeed as an academic. So we have a strong incentives to write a lot. But even if you're not an active academic, or if you publish enough to succeed as an academic the way you want, you have to write more and more and more. And why is that? Because that's the only way you improve. Improvement comes from practice. It's not just the quality of your ideas and the quality of your training, it's the quantity of hours that you put into practicing and writing. Remember, writing is thinking. So if you'll be able to work for many hours and write things that are getting better over time, your thoughts will also improve and your ability to analyze problems will get better. In this lecture, I will first discuss certain things that relate to your lifestyle that you can improve in order to become a better writer. The second part of the lecture will be things that you can do as you write to improve your writing and your chances of writing more. And at the end, we will discuss some things that you can do when you're not writing that will build into your writing and improve it and help you again to write more. My name is Shai Dotan. I'm Associate Professor of International Public Law at the University of Copenhagen Faculty of Law, and the purpose of these lectures is to make you a better writer, a better speaker in English. How can your lifestyle help your writing? The first thing I want you to do is to divide your day so that there are regular hours for writing. Consistency is very, very important. Just like it is in training. When I used to have strict training regimens, I made sure that I'd be doing the squat at exactly the same time, hopefully at exactly the same place, in exactly the same conditions. You want to reach the same level in writing. Ideally, you block a certain set of hours where you are at your best every single day at exactly the same time. If you cannot do that and you have to move it because you are teaching, working, other obligations, this is fine. These are compromises that are reasonable. But always remember that when you are consistent and if you know in advance where you will be a week from now, your mind is processing the work in advance, subconsciously. This will make the work better. So if you can be consistent and if you can always know in advance where you will be, when you will be there, what you will be doing, what you will be writing, this will make your writing much, much better. So the first rule I want you to adopt is try to work in regular hours. The second rule is all the time think about your next writing project, because you will not be writing all day. Different people have different stamina for writing. Some people can write for an hour very effectively and then they are quite useless for a few hours. Some people can do it for 2 hours, some for 4 hours. But even if you write for 5 or 6 hours, which is very, very rare, you still have many more hours in your day where you can do other things. And what I ask you to do in this time is to think about a new writing project continuously. If you're an academic, that's very important. You don't want to be stuck between tasks for weeks and months, where you finish a great paper or a book and then you're waiting for the next idea to come. The way to avoid that is that you constantly reserve time in your day and reserve attention to think about new projects as you go along. So you're writing on one project, but you're also reflecting on other projects, and these projects will, once you reach them, already be partly baked in your head, and you can continue to pursue them and do so successfully. So all the time, try to think about the next project that is going to come soon. Now, another factor that I want you to do is I want you to make a very meticulous planning of the next day. So if every day before you go to sleep, you write to yourself what you plan to do, this will make you much more effective. This will make you much more effective in everything. In any work that you do, planning ahead and getting your tasks straight will make you much better. But when you deal with writing, this is especially crucial. So you want to write to yourself, you're about to go to sleep now, it's midnight or 11 p.m. You're not going to work more, but you open your file and you write to yourself, tomorrow from 10 to 12 noon, I will write chapter 6a in my dissertation. And if you plan it like that, you will get really good results. And that's exactly what I want you to do. I want you to plan ahead. It's the best time to plan ahead is before you go to sleep, and then you're ready for the next day. You can also make smaller adjustments on planning ahead during the day, and then just add them to your list of tasks. And what I usually do is I will have a Word file when I write my tasks for the week, and then it's always written with a yellow highlighter what I plan to do the next day, or if it's after a break in the same day, what I plan to do immediately after lunch. In addition to these rules, so working in regular hours, always looking for the next task, and planning ahead what you will do tomorrow, I want you to set yourself deadlines for the longer term. So tell to yourself, I want to finish this chapter of my dissertation until the 1st of March. And the best deadlines are deadlines that you're very committed to. So for example, if you have a supervisor, try to consult with him or with her and agree together that you will set this date for a time when you will send this chapter of a dissertation. This will make you more likely to commit to it. If you don't have a supervisor that can help you with that, try to talk with others. So talk to your colleagues, your friends, your family. Try to explain what you plan to do. This is something that can be a type of habit, that you are discussing your work, you're discussing what you plan to do in the weeks ahead. And write it down, open a file on your computer, and it'll be the same file where you write every week what you plan to do, and set these long-term goals, and then do whatever you can to stick to them. This will keep you all the time on the move, all the time working towards greater success. Now, after we discuss these lifestyle things that you can do to make you write better, we go to the core, and this is really the writing. What do you do when you write? Now, the first thing, and that I said already quite thoroughly in other lectures, you need to start. That's very important. You need to start a project, then you need to start writing every day. That's usually the hardest part. Procrastination is the enemy. Get yourself started and get to working. Once you've done that, you're already 50% towards your target. Now the purpose is to keep you working effectively. And how can you do that? And the first thing that you want to do is you want to block all disturbances as you write, and that's very important. Usually I see a lot of my students with a lot of applications on their computers that would jump Skype, Facebook, emails. You want to make sure all this doesn't exist. So when there's a new email or something like that, there's no beep. You can go to your email box, you will check it later, but don't get disturbed by it. Even if you think that this is nothing, it's just a beep that will take you a few seconds. These few seconds can be a big difference in terms of your concentration level. So avoid all disturbances as you write. That's very important. If you have a phone, if you are able to, if there's no family member that could be in an emergency, even block the phone so nobody will call you as you're writing. This is especially crucial if you're the type of guy or girl that writes very effectively for an hour and then doesn't work for a few hours. So this means this hour is sacred and nothing should be allowed to disturb you. You also are not allowed to do anything else besides writing when you are writing. You can try to make breaks that you think about in advance, but don't be tempted to check a little bit the news or something like that. That's a very dangerous thing. Now, sometimes it's useful to use the internet, and I spoke about the things that you can use. You can use research as you write, dictionary, thesaurus, Google Scholar. It's difficult to write today without any use of the internet whatsoever. This means that you have to be even more strict with yourself. To tell to yourself, I'm checking this word because I need a synonym for thesaurus, but then I'm not going to go and check the news. I'm not going to go to see videos on YouTube. I'm getting back to my work. So that's the first thing that I want you to do. The second thing is I want you to be to set yourself quotas at the beginning of your work that you'll be working towards. Now, there's different ways to do that. One way to do that is to say I will work effectively for exactly 2 hours. No matter how much I write, I just work for this time. Another possibility is to say I work until I write 500 words or 1,000 words. Now, there are different advantages and disadvantages to using these techniques. If you are able to write with quite a good concentration and a relatively consistent pace, you can say that you will check how many hours you've been working, and after 2 hours you earned your break because you know that this is approximately what you produce. And this allows you a little bit more freedom to think more about a certain topic because it takes you more time and you will write a little bit less today, but the next time you'll be writing it will be exactly the opposite. If you think that it's difficult for you to maintain discipline and to maintain consistency, then maybe setting a deadline in terms of a number of words that you will write over a number of pages, but the words is much more accurate metric, is a better technique because this will really force you to produce something that is set in advance. And it also may be depending on the type of task that you have. If you're writing a very innovative paper, give yourself time to process. Don't force yourself to write 1,000 words. If you're writing a descriptive chapter in your PhD, you already know what you're about to write and you have to do it again and again and again and again, and you write hundreds of pages of dissertation, then setting deadlines in terms of quotas, in terms of words or pages, becomes more important. Now, one of the things that you can use is if you have a watch like this, a very simple watch, a digital watch, some of them have two functions that are very useful. One is the stopper. Now, the stopper allows you to keep track of how much time passed since you started. And you can use the stopper as a kind of a commitment device. When I was really focusing on writing my PhD and fighting against any chance that I would deviate from the work itself, what I would do is I would set the stopper to work, and then I would make sure that I write for at least an hour, and as long as the stopper is running, you're not doing anything else. Now for you, it's a visual aid that makes commitment easier because you know that the stopper is still running. So this is a time which is sacred for writing and you're not allowed to do anything else. Now the advantage of a timer is that it rings after this amount of time, so you don't have to continuously check your watch. You have to decide what is better for you. A stopper means that you will check your watch more often, but this can be something that for your personality and for your situation will be beneficial because you will see the time growing, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and this will keep you motivated to write more. If you are quite motivated, you know that you're an effective writer, and you just want to kind of dive into the writing, you can put the timer, you will not check it, and it will ring after 2 hours and tell you, okay, it's time for a break, or after an hour, after half an hour. You set whatever time you want. When I was younger, and maybe counterintuitively, I worked harder than any time in my life. When the time between was that I was 14 and 16. So between 14 and 16, I was in an elite program when we studied 4 years of high school in 2 years, and it was very, very intensive writing. And for me, one of the techniques that I used was I had a watch similar to this, where it would ring every hour, every round hour. And every round hour during the day, I would kind of reflect of what have I done during this hour. Did I read something? Did I write something? So maybe setting the alert for every hour on your watch could be a good idea, especially if you're able to do that and to say, what have I done? How much I progressed? How am I moving forward? Now, be aware that putting this alarm is stressful, and maybe a good compromise would be that it will go on for, 8 hours a day, and the rest of the time you will relax a little bit and you will not have to hear it. So these are ways that you can use to do as you're writing. And I want to say another technique that I use quite often. I use it a lot at the gym. I know every training that I make for years already. Immediately when it's done, I drink a protein shake. Now, I do that partly because I want my muscles to recover, so that's the best time to drink a protein shake. But another reason is it's a kind of a reward. It's something that you can think about as you're working. And I want you to do the same when you write as well. So when you finish writing, eat a snack. If you don't want any calories, just drink a cold bottle of water. Something that is associated with enjoyment. And if you do that, you will have something to look forward to as you write. And this will give you motivation. This will help you to stay focused on your work. Finally, what do you do when you're not writing in order to make your writing better? The first thing that I want you to do is I want you to continuously read a lot. And I will also speak more about reading and how to read more and how to read effectively. But the first rule that I have about reading is quantity. You want to be able to read a lot. Now, why is reading so useful? First of all, your language is getting better. You're learning new vocabulary. You're learning style from experts. That's great. Second, you have constantly new ideas. And this will help you to set new writing goals for yourself. If you continuously feed yourself with ideas as you read, think about them, this will lead to the writing later on. And another important reason I want you to read is because if you are used to reading every day for 2 hours, this means that you're already committed to work these 2 hours on building your intellectual abilities and your knowledge for the future. Now, in time when there is an emergency of sorts, where you have to write very quickly, that's exactly the time when you use these 2 hours. So I know that I will all the time, every day I read for an hour or two, and if I need to write a paper about a certain topic, I use this time. So then I will be reading my own drafts or writing in this time. All the time getting yourself ready to work continuously many hours a day on things that have a long-term effect will give you the ability to use these hours in an emergency for something that is more urgent. I always think about this with relation to the great orator Demosthenes, who used to stammer when he was a child in Athens, and that's why he started to put pebbles in his mouth, and that's how he was practicing to speak. Now, after he practiced this for many years, when he went in front of the audience without the pebbles, he spoke beautifully. So for me, reading is a bit like the pebbles. So it's something that I do all the time. It always is an extra difficulty, extra hours that I'm using. And if I need to use this time because I have a crucial, urgent matter to address, I will be able to do that. Okay, I will use this reading time to either read or write the things that are more urgent for me. But I will not be able to do that unless I do it every day. If those 2 hours will be used for just wasting my time completely, I would not have them in the day anymore. They would just disappear. And then when emergency comes, I don't even have this time available for me to draw on it. So reading would give you ideas that you need, language that you need to use, and a possibility to use this time, the stamina, the discipline, to use this time towards tasks that are becoming more urgent. Another thing that I urge you to do is get into great shape. I know that this is not always a politically correct thing to say, but you will never be able to reach your intellectual potential unless you are in great shape. I don't mean that you have to be an ultramarathon runner, but you have to be in shape that is good enough so that your body is able to sustain you and sustain your mind and your thinking throughout many hours a day. It's bad for you to be overweight, not just because of your health, because it increases chances for almost any sickness there is, but because it doesn't allow you to be your very best at writing. You will need to work for many, many hours a day. You will need to think for many, many hours a day. You cannot afford to be tired. You cannot afford to have your thinking limited by the own limitations of your body. Now, I say that knowing that the audience that is listening to me is very, very diverse. Now, if you are in your 20s and you're a little bit overweight, maybe you can get along fine. It's possible to do that. And maybe you actually focus on your time on working on writing. And that's okay. There is a price for that in health and many other prices that I'm sure you are aware of, but you can do that. But once you start to get into your 30s and 40s, if you don't have this abilities, athletic abilities, that are the basic ones that are necessary to keep you healthy, then your work will also be significantly damaged. And I want to speak throughout these lectures maybe a bit more about the life cycle that we're speaking about. I myself am a bit over 40, and I'm already starting to feel how crucial it is to keep myself together, so to be in great shape, to keep my discipline at work, to keep challenging myself, to keep changing. That's exactly the age where you start to feel that. And the last thing that I want to focus on is I want you to reserve time in your day to think. Now that's actually maybe related to my note to be in great shape, because I often, when I come to the gym, I will never bring a phone with me. I will never check anything. I will never read anything. I have some time between the sets to think. And I want you to do that because your inner monologue is very, very important. If you are able to do that in your lifestyle, so to walk the dog for an hour, to walk in the nature, that's even better. So as long as you are not constantly exposed to information, you're able to build your inner monologue, and this will allow you to construct sentences in your head that are getting better and better because that's exactly what you practice. This will help you to think about ideas that will come together in this way. Almost all my ideas I didn't get like this sitting in my chair in front of a computer. I go to them after I was sitting in my chair in front of a computer writing for a long time, but then when I take a shower, when I'm doing my exercise, when I'm walking from a place to place, suddenly things come together. You need to give your mind an opportunity to do that by not bombarding it all the time with information. So give some time for new ideas to enter your brain by using your inner monologue. And finally, your inner monologue is especially important to set your goals. You need to know what are your priorities, what are you aiming at, what are you planning for, and this will fit in to what we discussed at the beginning. So setting yourself a schedule, knowing what are your goals. You need some time, a leisure time, to be able to process that. Unless you have time to process that, your goals will not be very good, and then you will not see great progress in your aims.